Hello, and welcome to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I'm Erin DeVos, and I'll be your host for this season. Join us for insightful interviews that explore the work of up-and-coming independent filmmakers from all over the world. If you're passionate about film and keen to learning about the creative process from the future cinema greats, this podcast is a must-listen for you. Our mission is to provide listeners with the engaging and informative conversations about successful and innovative films, including features, shorts, documentaries, animation, and web series from across the globe. The DCIFF Film Chat Podcast is a unique opportunity for independent filmmakers to have their voices heard in a way no other film festival can provide. You can listen to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast on all podcast platforms or visit our website at DCIFF-indie.org/DCIFF-podcast. Thank you. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I'm really excited to be meeting with you today and as well as at your film premiere for HOMEPLANET, which will be on February 14th during DCIFF 2025. So again, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be part of the festival.
Oh, yes, we are too. And I'm excited to chat about your film because I feel there's definitely multiple layers into it. And I know before we dive into there too, I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and as well as your nominated film.
All right. Well, in a nutshell, I'm originally from Philadelphia. I went to college in Boston. I was at BU and I graduated from Emerson College. About 10 years later, I found myself at USC Film School getting a master's. And I was living in LA for about 17 years. I was a screenwriter and a script doctor and a script analyst. And then I moved to Kansas City in 2005 because I got a Kansas City girlfriend and we decided to cohabitate. And when I got to Kansas City, I was really excited to find out that Kansas City was a great film town because there's a very vibrant indie film community here. And I made a decision to change from just writing material to actually getting into producing and directing my own films. And digital filmmaking definitely helped with that because the cost came way down. And so that's what I've been doing. I taught screenwriting at a local college here for a couple of years. And now I'm just writing and producing and directing the film.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, you've definitely been national, if you will, like with all the different like locations and exploring the different avenues of that. So that's exciting to know. Like where was HOMEPLANET filmed?
HOMEPLANET was shot in a little town outside of Kansas City. It's a farm community, and the town is called Napoleon, Missouri. And it was originally a German immigrant who created a farm in town. And it was the town is right next to the Missouri River. So it's got a lot of scenic quality to it. But it is a small community, and they were so welcoming and so helpful to put together HOMEPLANET. We were thrilled to be a part of it. That's awesome. When I think of Kansas, I'm just, Wizard of Oz, like always thinking filming in there. So I'm just, I haven't heard too many. That. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's just is it the same location? But yeah, no, regardless, that's so exciting. I haven't heard too many films being filmed in Kansas. So that's great. To hear that it's an up and coming city or, of opportunity in that way. Well, Kansas, well, actually Missouri. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Had a little bit of a break from filmmaking. They were shooting some Hollywood production because they had a tax incentive. And then the legislation let that tax incentive sunset. And it's just in the last year that it's come back. And so we're getting some more production coming in from outside of the state. But yeah, Kansas City, we have a lot of very talented and interesting and eager filmmakers. And So I do not want recruit. They're all here. So we're happy.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah. Diving more into Home Planet itself, do you mind sharing a little bit about?
Home Planet is about a disoriented man who is found wandering shoeless on a country highway. And he is picked up by two cops, two local cops, who have a suspicion that he might be a space alien. And that's the setup. And, I started looking at the film first with that premise because I kind of thought it was funny. And so, but when I actually looked into it and I asked myself questions like, why is he where he is? When I started writing the answers, I shifted from comedy to a drama because it was just too character rich. And I like films that are microcosms where you have society, but it's a small story. And here's a character who's a fish out of water by no choice of his own, just trying to find his way back into life. And without giving too much away, it is sci-fi. It is classic sci-fi. It is like Twilight Zone and Ray Bradbury short stories. It's a little bit of an adventure. It's a little bit of a mystery, and it's heartfelt. And I just wanted to make something that was, that would resonate with an audience on an emotional one.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought in like the different components of the film and like how you wanted to, how it transitioned, if you will, in that way. And so thinking about, well, I guess what inspired you to write this story, produce and direct?
Stories come about in all different ways. But as I said, I had that idea. I said, well, wouldn't it be funny if if these two cops picked up somebody and they thought he was a space alien and started getting into arguing about it? So that was the jump off point. But, I started looking into the UFO phenomenon and the various arguments that were going on there. And there were stories, well, actually studies about brain trauma among veterans in battle scenarios and how sometimes they're being dismissed as just headaches or because they're not visual, they're not on the surface. And those little factors started to sort of intermingle in my head. And when I started thinking about, well, where would I set this? And what is the gist of the story? What is the nature of this story? I took off in a different direction. And 12 drafts later, I had HOMEPLANET. So I felt very good about getting to the point where, I felt it was a solid story that really could connect. I've done some dark comedy. I've done some other sci-fi. I've done sort of supernatural thrillers, but this had a slightly different feel to it. It just, for me, it felt more personal. Not that I'm considered a space alien or I've experienced brain trauma, but the feeling of family and connection. And that's what I hope comes out.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I love how you brought that point too, like in the sense of the different elements and, the number of drafts that you had like dedicated the time into to wanting to get the story right, like with, the direction and like what you were wanting to pursue. So I love hearing that. Would you say like there was any challenges that you had come across?
Okay, well, making a film is it's just a bunch of challenges. It's you're just picking off problems one by one. Now, I did leave one thing out. One of the inspirations of the film, I went to a screening in Kansas City, and there was an actor who had the lead part in the film. And after the film broke up, he turned around to me and he said, "I want to work with you." I said, "Okay." And I started thinking, well, what can I do with him? And I sort of lent a little freedom with what I was doing with the character to match it up to what I think you do as an actor. And so that certainly gave me a little guidance. And once I got that, then I was getting it. So problems. First, we had to get a hold of our locations. We had to convince the small town that we weren't maniacs or some kind of filmmaking hippie troupe. And, we had a connection to the town, so that certainly vouched for us, so that kind of helped. Getting crew together actually proved a little bit of a challenge because when we wanted to shoot, it seemed everybody was shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a DP, I had everything I needed, except I couldn't get someone to do sound. And it was driving me crazy until I finally I got the perfect package. I got a guy named Wayne Gassman, who was both a drone pilot and he does sound. And I thought, that's what I need. Great. 2 for 1. Mm-hmm. The other problem, just weird little logistical problems, like we're out in a town that has no store or restaurant in the town. And how do we cater for the crew and the cast? Mm-hmm. So it's weird little logistical thing. We had to get one thing that drove us crazy was because we shot, part of it is in period, the 60s period. And we had to get a truck, an old truck. And you would think that would be easy. And it wasn't. And we looked all around for it. Finally, we got a hold of somebody who said, I have a truck. It only goes like 20 miles an hour. I could drive it to your place. I don't know how fast I would be going because the odometer's out. And we're going to charge you $400. $400? That's a lot. So we started asking around the town, and somebody said, hey, why don't you go over to the Stoners? They have old trucks. So we just drove up the street, and there were like 5 old trucks out in a field in front of the house. And I was like, oh, wait, this is great. We introduced ourselves. I just told them what I needed, and I said, I probably take what I need. Well, I said, I needed something like 1968. I need a farm truck. And I goes, I said, this looks good enough. He said, oh, no, you said 1968. We have that, because they were restoring one. And so he did. The guy who was restoring it got a call. He was like the son in family. He said, oh, yeah, we have it. And I said, terrific. So sight unseen, I said, well, how much? I said, yours. They drove it to our location. And when it arrived, it was beautiful. It was in such great condition. And I thought, this is amazing. Things just sometimes they just fall together. Mm-hmm. And so we had the owner of the farm where we were shooting. He did all the driving, because when you look in the truck, you do not recognize that as a modern vehicle. It's got double stick shift, and the whole is all like, plate iron inside, and it's not built for comfort. And I said, well, can you we just need to drive it up and down the long driveway here. And he said, sure, I'll do it. And I said, okay, well, this is the scene. We need the truck to stop, and the actor will get on, then you continue. I said, okay, sure. Where do you want me? And I told him where I wanted. He was so precise in his driving. He hit the marks every time. And I said, that's amazing. The actors can't hit their marks, but this guy can with an old truck. So you run into little things like that. Great things that pop out, and sometimes things can go wrong. Like we had when the screen or the production started, it was raining, and we all gathered there, and there's nothing I could do about it. And of course, I get a little antsy because I'm thinking, okay, well, we have so much time to shoot, and that's a producer's problem, not a director's problem. But, they said, oh, well, look at the forecast. It's going to lighten up in about an hour. Why don't we just have lunch? That's what we did. I said, I've never gone to a production and just sat down and everyone had lunch before they worked. So it worked out. The sun came out. We had clouds. It looked great. That it moved us back like a couple of hours, but we made up that time. Other than that, we had good weather. We had a lot of cooperation. One of the sad moments was on that same day where it rained. I got a call from the husband of our makeup artist, who said that she had been in a car accident and could not make it to the set. And I thought, wow, okay, well, let's just go ahead and we'll go ahead without makeup. And we scrambled to get a makeup artist for when we really needed one. And she was terrific. She came in, she did her job. She was very matter of fact. We had one moment where we had the actor's face made up and he was walking out the door, get to the truck, and she leaned over and she said, his hands are not the same color as his face.
Nope.
I said, oh, okay. Well, what can we do about that? Do you want to make his hands up? And no, just hide his hands. I said, okay. Simple solution. What's the most complicated thing we can do? No, simple solution. All right, put your hands in your pocket. Okay, just put that. I like working with a good crew. I like working with people who know the position and they're local. And because it's a collaborative effort, I like getting feedback. And, when you work with filmmakers, they will have your ideas. And it's not like I veered wildly off course from what I wanted to do, but I take all the best ideas that I hear, and I know I'm going to get credit for them anyway, so I'll take them. And everyone from actors down to a production assistant, if he sees something or she sees something, I'm listening. Might be something I don't get. All right, so from a producer's point of view, most of the work I do as a producer is in pre-production. It's putting together all of the elements, budgeting, which everybody loves, and just getting all the elements together, breaking down a script, and getting a shooting schedule. I like to be as prepared as possible because I don't want to do that while I'm actually shooting.
Right.
So when I'm actually shooting, I have other people, doing production duties. And then I pick it up again when we get into post-production. I do as much pre-production as I can. So I don't have to wonder what a scene is about or what kind of performance I'm looking for. And because I know what I'm looking for, I can be more open to improvisation. In fact, the two police officers who are in the film have worked together as improv actors. And I said, okay, let's run the script. And at one point I said, okay, let's go off book. You just do it. Let's see what happens. And so we met some interesting things. And at one point I said, okay, that's way too far off book. It's got to pull it back. But the energy that they brought is terrific. And, we're shooting at almost at midnight. And it's, the night's kind of getting cold. But we didn't mind. We were having fun. That's why we're hysterical. And, filmmaking should be fun. And we were having a good time.
Yeah, no, I love that. You touched on so many different elements of filmmaking itself, like whether it's utilizing the environment and community to be able to bring people together, and as well as sounds like you're such a collaborative producer. So always hearing from all sides of the camera angles, if you will, agree even behind the camera to understand the setting and the scene that you want to create and open to all those ideas. So I love hearing that from filmmakers because in some ways, being involved with DCIFF, I've been starting to write my own script because I've been so inspired by you and everyone else too, just to be able to see and understand what is out there and how we can come together to collaborate. So I love how you demonstrated that in all the work that you're doing. And a few questions like came to mind. It was more towards like the beginning, like how you mentioned like sci-fi and like fiction, all the different types of genres. Like what would you say is your favorite genre that you like to produce?
I don't have a favorite, but when I see the story going for a particular genre, I just concentrate on what makes a genre work. Like westerns, I really like for short subject. All my films, when I say short subject, all my films are like 20 plus. At the length of a Twilight Zone or an Outer Limits when you take the commercials out. And if I'm thinking short film, I'm thinking that sort of format, which most festivals, the programmers go crazy because, they're taking up so much time and you can't get these other films in. So I want to make a film that's so good they have to put it into the festival. They want to put it into the festival. And in terms of genre, if you look at, let's say, Alfred Hitchcock Presents or Twilight Zone, they touch on so many different genres, subgenres within, let's say, the weirdness or the crime facets of the genre. And some of them are very funny and some of them are very poignant. So problem with some application of the genre is that people think they need to deliver the cliches. And I think I like to present the presence of the drama of the genre and the possibility of the genre. And it's suspense. I want to deliver suspense. It's horror. I want to scare you. If it's comedy, obviously I want you to laugh. There are different ways to communicate with an audience, but ultimately it comes down to a story and what you're trying to tell and how you're trying to make a connection. And that's what a genre can do. It's a little bit of a shorthand because if I go in to a film and I say, I know it's a horror film, or I know it's sci-fi, or I know it's a Western, I can get my head around that. So, okay, I know what to expect or what I think I'm looking for. It's just, here's the drama. Well, okay, I don't know. I'm totally out of any element. I don't know what you're going to throw at me. With short form, it helps, I think, genre, helps get the film moving.
Yeah.
So I'm all for genre. I really like it. But I really like all kinds of filmmaking. So it doesn't mean because I had a student who, when I was screenwriting, he said, you're talking about and the films that you've written, and you're talking about, the examples. People are giving you like art house films or, these dramas. And I said, yeah, I too. It doesn't mean I write them.
Right.
I like them. So, you have to do something that gives you energy back. And I think, when I get into a genre, it sort of gives me energy back.
Yeah, no, I love that. That was beautifully said because you brought up like also a few points too, like with short form versus a feature film. Like I mean, this is me personally, but I feel like I've been navigating more towards the short form format, not just because like the nature of the world, like with social media, like that's a whole different subject. Well, it relates to a question I want to ask too, but just kind of like seeing like how the story really develops to life and also the fact that it's not that, short form like really like gets to the point per se, but it does like offer that sense of curiosity or that sense of, just wanting to know more and like and seeing like the story build out more. So I guess in a way that's my thoughts, but also like a question of like, can you see like Home Planet like becoming maybe a feature like or extended series like into that just based on the format of the film?
Yes, I can. The film is a complete film. It's conceived as a complete film, but it leaves off with a few questions. And anytime you make a film, you're asking a question: about what happens if. And with Home Planet, I asked myself, well, what happens now?
Mm.
Because it doesn't end on, some wildly expected, banal kind of finish. There's still a little weirdness there that begs to be explored. So yes, I could go on and write more of it.
Mhm.
And I'm not opposed to that, but I don't have plans for it right now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, if it's the
Plus,
complete
not a budget for me.
right. That's right. That's another thing. Like, I know budget always comes up, but absolutely. I mean, like, if it has like more, and what I mean by that is like more by the means of like the beginning, middle, and end, like knowing that there
But
is like the questions that you have like after the film. So I always love that, and I'm really
there
looking
is
forward
more
to it.
story to be told here,
Mhm.
and I think about it, but I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah.
It's as I said, it gets people excited, and somebody says, "Hey, let's do more with this." I'd be all for it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, open to the opportunity. Cool. Is there anything that I may have not asked you that you wanted to share?
Well, let's talk about the thing that doesn't really get talked about,
Okay.
which is post production.
Mhm.
And you come into a film, let's say you're the writer and you have this great script. And as the director, you're executing that script and trying to convey the story and the feel in visuals. And then you get to post production and then you see what you actually have created and what needs to be changed, what needs to be cut, and the overall feel of the film. I don't cut the film. I have ideas about cutting the film, but I have an editor that I work very closely with, and I we talk about it, and I let him do his thing, sort of segment by segment, and then I give notes, and we go back and forth. And with Home Planet, it's such an emotional sort of story, and so we had to see, well, are we hitting this mark? Are we getting this? Are we getting the most out of this that we need? We had several cuts that we had to go through. And so yes, we're looking at special effects and we're looking at various lighting changes, like colorization. All of it comes into play. And that is a very important process because you've made it, you've written the script, you've shot the film. Now you're rewriting this. You're rewriting the script. In essence, in editing, you're taking what is, and you have to be free enough, open enough to take the story where it really needs to go, where you could see where it's going. And yeah, I wrote it, but we're beyond that. Yeah, I directed it, but here we are. And this is the next step. So we got the final cut, and then we took the cut to the composer. And I hope the composer, Dan Stein, comes to the festival. He's saying that he will, and I think it's great. But we did the same thing. We talked about movie composition is not just about music, it's about finding the essence of each character in the moment. You are telling a story with music. Everybody's familiar probably from grade school with Peter and the Wolf. And everyone says, "Oh, Peter and the Wolf, that tells a story." Because of this. Well, film scoring is not that different because you are trying to convey a story. It's not necessarily this great melodic thing that will play on its own. It should be very specific to film, and that's what we worked on. We worked weeks to get it
Mhm.
exactly where it needed to be. He's incredibly creative, and he kept asking, "Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think." If I offered some suggestion, it was really about the feel. That could be altered. It's okay. The melody, the music he was writing was fine, but can we get something more out of it? When that was done, we then went to the sound mixer, sound designer. We had to make sure all the dialogue was audible, and we had sounds because we're in a rustic setting that we were adding to make it feel like a rustic setting. And the first time he put a sequence together, I said, I've heard that bird 5 times already doing the same call. Let's get rid of that bird. So, I didn't even think about it. So, okay. So the little things that you need to exaggerate, and it's all for a point of how the audience is going to hear it. Hearing is extremely powerful. And for filmmaking, people will put up with certain, let's say, certain mistakes or in the visual. Something's a little out of focus or whatever, the story is moving on. But if you deliver bad sound, that's a psychological break with the suspension of disbelief. It's like, whoa, what is that? That doesn't sound right. And so you have to go through that and figure out that to take some of those things away and then put in other things that will enhance the moment. And one of the things was there's a scene where the door slams on a porch on a farmhouse, and the door slam is important because it's mentioned by the characters. And the first time I heard it, I said, well, that's not really loud enough. The second time, with the second door slam, it was way too soft. And the third one, I said, I can hardly even hear that. So we got into conversations about the nature of a door slam and what it means and what we can do. But you have to get into those details, because when it gets in front of an audience, you don't want them to think about it. You don't want them to say, I can hardly hear that. Or, well, that's weird. I just heard it slam at this decibel level. Well, now it's down here. You have to keep that dream state alive. So there's a lot to keep track of as a producer to work with post-production. And once we got it all together, it gets the final mix, and we go through that a couple of times, and it's done. It's like, gee, no time has passed at all. It doesn't feel like a year. It was. So, but I'm very happy with the result.
No, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you brought up the post-production, because that's something that I don't really ask about, but it's so important to understand too. You reminded me of one of the filmmakers I interviewed in the last season of this podcast, and music was so important. Well, it's important for all films, but she, like you, also explained, it's all about the movement, from the door slam to seeing, the background music and how that aligns with the emotion of the film too. So I feel, yeah, I hope your composer comes to the festival, because that would be great to, learn from him, in terms of his perspective and creating that as well. So I really do appreciate you highlighting that element, because that's something that it's overlooked. I feel like it's overlooked, but at the same time, it's so important, and we hear it and we feel it as we're in the theater too. So
I think, well, for the audience, I want them to overlook it.
Mm.
I want them to be conscious of it. I want them to experience it.
Yeah.
It's a story, and it's supposed to move them along. If you want to, concentrate on it, well, I'll put out the CD, and you can buy the CD or download it online.
Oh yeah.
But well, that's another funny thing. I mean, he is ASCAP, is an ASCAP composer, and in order to use ASCAP for the film, I became ASCAP. I became an ASCAP publisher.
Mm.
So my production company has a little, and it costs virtually nothing, but for distribution purposes, music has to be registered, and it also has to be, and this is kind of drudgery, filmmakers out there, if you haven't done it, you'll really love it, going through the entire film and logging by the second on the film the music used. And you create this little chart that gets sent to ASCAP so they know exactly when someone gets a royalty or doesn't get a royalty. So it's great to, it's great to experience it and do it because you get to look at your film in a whole different way when you do stuff like that. And it's, just to measure out the seconds. Like, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's another thing. And this is just producer stuff, and I'll throw it out there. I don't know if it's interesting or not, but you need to have paperwork. You need to have clearances on your locations. If people are going to appear on screen, they have to sign a release. If you have music, you've got to have a release. If you're going to go into any kind of distribution after your film is done, they're going to ask for that. And sometimes that can get very expensive to go in reverse and try to recreate all that. So there's certain things you need to do to move the film along. It's a business, it's a show business, and that's part of what a producer does. And I think I'm decent at it. I don't think it's fun, but I think I'm okay doing it. I think it's less fun if I get caught not doing something at the end.
Right.
And, even when you submit to festivals, there's the little legal paragraph in the application that says you as a filmmaker take on all responsibility, that everything has cleared and you are completely responsible for what's in the film. Because the festival doesn't want to get sued.
Right.
I would get sued, and I don't want to be sued. So that's why you have clearance. So it would bother me not to have it. A lot of people don't do it. Some people take music, but it's just pop music, and they throw it on a film. And where are you going to take that now? You don't have a clearance. And it's a massive headache to try to get a clearance for a pop song. There are like 4 different places you need to go to get approval from the publisher and from the musicians and from the composer. And if you're using the music that got released, say, through Warner Brothers or any other music producer, it's a whole process. And it could take a while. And it could cost you a lot of money. So you better budget for that before you put your film out with, Born to Run on it or something. You're gonna run into problems.
Right. No, I'm so glad that you highlighted that too, because I feel like that's something that, we talk about as well, is it a panel discussion? No, like more like as a workshop, like these types of importances. So I'm so glad that you had brought up this topic in the interview too, because I feel some people can get lost in the paperwork, like after a film, like especially just being so excited to be done it. But then, there's that whole other level of being like, okay, now what? But also now what the what is, but applying it together. So
That's why you work with a producer. That's why you work with a composer. That's why, if you look at the credits after a major film release, you'll see the accountants are listed. You'll see the lawyers are listed. You'll see all the different release companies. And it's like, who are these people? Well, no one on the set will ever meet them. The director will never meet them. Most likely the producers won't meet every individual person, but they all have a part to play, and that is making the film legal.
Right.
To screen anywhere. And that's, because if someone's going to sue you, they might sue you, and that's not good. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want that. So, yeah, business, it is a business, even on the festival level. I know you work with high school students, and the creative process is wonderful. The high school students, don't worry about that right now. This only comes later. But because they should be concentrating on the creative process. But once you get to the next level, you have to start thinking about it.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I appreciate you highlighting that, Andrew. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, no, I think, well, I'm glad that I asked that question for
Oh,
you
good.
to expand on it. So, no, this is great. Yeah, because it's something I don't often chat about. But so is DCIFF your first film festival, and have you attended like others in the past too?
It's the first film festival for HOMEPLANET. But I've been to other festivals with other films, and each one is different. And there's always something that comes out of it. The networking experience is terrific. Meeting other filmmakers, the conversations are terrific. And, you might find a collaborator. But a woman asked me at a festival once, and just not, it was more than just what filmmaker, why are you here? Why do you come to festival? And I had to think about it for a second. And I said, because you're here, because the audience is here. And there's nothing better than the audience experience, because the audience will not lie. What their reaction is their reaction. It's raw and it's immediate, and you might love it, you might hate it, but it's honest. It's so honest. I can put a film online, I can stream it, I can put it on YouTube, but I don't get that audience reaction. I don't hear a laugh or a gasp or a scream. And I thought, oh, this is really what I wanted. So the audience, it's so important in the film process, because that's what it's really about. If you're sitting in your living room with a beer or some popcorn, I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what you're feeling. I don't know if I've made the connection that I wanted to make. So that's why I love film festivals.
That's such a beautiful question, and I'm definitely going to take that, use that question more often, like with filmmakers that I meet. So, thank you so much, Andrew. I really,
And audience, if you're listening, please show up.
yes.
We
So,
need you.
highly encourage you to attend DCFF 2025. Andrew's film Home Planet will be on Friday, February 14th, so on Valentine's Day, during our Stranger Times short films program. And so we're very much looking forward to meeting with you in person and, yeah, also getting that audience reaction. So really looking forward to it.
You too.
This podcast is brought to you by the DCIFF supporters. We could not be here without all of you to be sharing this amazing outlet with filmmakers from around the world. If you are interested in supporting DCIFF, head on over to our website through the link description in the bio of this episode, or you can go right to the website, which is DCIFF-INDIE.org, to connect with us and learn more about our Future of Film programs, our festival, and also more educational opportunities in what we do with our high school students, community, and beyond. We look forward to your support.